Hey everyone, welcome back to Class 1A for episode 6 of season 5 Foresight. My name is Andrew Nimsgren, and to help me break down and give our thoughts on everything that happened in this episode, I have Dylan Beal and James Graham alongside me as always. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a new episode of My Hero on a Saturday morning. I'm doing good.
All right, we can't complain. I mean, I figured Dylan would be more stoked because you get to see like one of his favorite characters actually get like an episode. But
I'm containing it. I'm just containing. I
there
can't.
you
I can't just
go.
let it
It'll
all
come
go
out.
at once.
It'll come
That's
out. But
fair.
I mean, maybe to make you guys day a little worse to kick it off, we're almost a fourth of the way through the season already.
Don't say that,
Doesn't
man.
that
Don't.
go
Yeah.
by fast? Like
Yeah, it
we're
does.
finished
Yeah.
6 episodes already, and it just feel like the first episode came out a week or two ago. So it's crazy how fast the season's going by. I mean, firstly, because the episodes are so much fun, and we're always looking forward, and they're doing a good job no matter what I think about the pacing of setting up the next episode of like you're waiting for that fight to kick right back off. So I think that's why it's going by so fast. But still, I don't want the season to be a fourth of the way over already. Like I want this to go forever, pretty much at this point. But before we do jump into a recap, we will be doing a couple of topics, plus ultra and all that stuff today as always. But as a reminder, if you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. Push the subscribe button down below, hit the bell, all that kind of stuff. Leave comments on your thoughts about the episode and all of that. But if you are also listening on podcasting platforms, a 5-star review on whatever you're listening to helps out a ton, helps other people find the class and enjoy the podcast alongside of you. So any support means the world. And as always, if you do have questions, send it over to contact@popped.com or twitter.com/class 1A pod. My goodness, I almost forgot our
There
own
you go.
social media channels there for a second. And ask us any questions you want, whether it's about the show in general, any theories you have, or about the upcoming or previous episode. We're happy to talk anything My Hero Academia. But with that, let's jump into the quick recap of season 5's episode 6, Foresight. It opens with a very short recap of everything that happened in round 1, and then kind of catching us up to where round 2 kicked off and ended in the last episode. Kanoko Komori, hero named Shimage, or Mushroom Girl, as we've kind of called her up to this point, begins to cover the entire battlefield with mushrooms, including her opponents, which sets Class 1A into a panic, not really knowing how to deal with that. We get a short flashback seeing that Kendo pretty much planned a plan B way in advance, knowing that if plan A was to fail, the entire battlefield is going to light up, and that's when we know to set plan B into effect. And clearly that's what's kicking off here, which Vanta Black did mention in the last episode. Manga Fushida, hero name Comic Man, creates a giant wall between Momo and the rest of Class 1A, where then Kendo begins to attack Momo one-on-one, trying to overwhelm her with strength, taking out the team's brains, and therefore assuming that would guarantee the win for Class 1B. All looks lost for Class 1A, but Momo is able to defend long enough to summon a cannon and then eventually shoots Yaoyorozu's lucky bag over to Tokiyami and Invisible Girl, which includes thermal goggles and ethanol to help deal with the mushrooms. Class 1A go on the offensive quickly, which seems to be winning when Tokiyami captures 2, but Shimage puts a mushroom into Tokiyami's windpipes and lungs, which immobilizes him, and Comic Man is about to lose to Invisible Girl when Kendo shows up and grabs her easily. But we do see that Kendo has Momo strapped to her with a bunch of ropes because before she passed out, Momo fused herself with a bunch of rope to Kendo and then also fused herself to the giant cannon, making it pretty much impossible for Kendo to move, but she was still able to get over there. There's a short conversation between Class 1B about how strong Class 1A was. They pretty much had to use everything they had to win, so it didn't feel like a dominant win that they wanted to, but in the end, Class 1B still beats Class 1A 4-0. So, as always, try to keep the recap short for you guys, but I had a couple of questions before we move into the overall topics. Rating this episode from 1 to 5, how likely did you think Class 1A was going to win in the end, even though we all knew the outcome?
I I was like tossed up on it. 4 or 5 because like we know from reading the manga, but it was weird on how it was like paced because it was really close, and I forgot how close it actually
Yeah.
was and where the turnaround was.
Yeah, it didn't feel like I don't know why. Like when I read the manga, like it didn't feel like that. It didn't. It felt much more in one class 1B's like advantage. But yeah, like when it got to the show, I was like, oh, and I missed something? Like, is it like, are they rewriting this fight or something like that? Because it felt like 1A kind of was just starting to have it, and then it was very much one of those things they had it until they didn't, sort of thing. So
Yeah. And then, so when I was kind of looking at this in episode in advance, the only things they added to this kind of the chapter compared to the anime compared to the manga was whenever the people outside of the fight were talking. That was the only things added. So I don't know if maybe Todoroki's short flashback of like, oh, they picked the wrong person targeting Momo and all that kind of stuff, maybe like kind of gave us the additional hope that
I think
we
it did.
didn't have in the manga. I think that was the biggest difference from what I'm pretty sure what it is when I was reading through some notes. And maybe that was what it was, because that was like setting up like the story you see in every anime. It's like, oh, they thought they had her, but they should have brought all four, not just one. And the whole thing's going to turn around. And that's what it looks like was going to happen there. And they don't show Momo until the very end with her passed out. So it was a very good episode, which I enjoy, that even though we knew the outcome, we were able to enjoy every single moment of it, and still thinking it was going to go either single way. And I know we're going to be talking about the specific quirks, but I also want to call for you guys. Why did these guys not deserve the cool hero name, like the hero drawings, like everyone else did?
that irked me that we didn't get that. Yeah, and they
wondered
won.
why it was the one-off. Yeah, I wonder why it was just the one-off, because like not only that is they only did it for 3 out of the 4 of the last fight. So we're missing one, and then we don't have these. So I wonder if it was just like something special that they did for that episode, or if we're eventually going to get them. I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe it was that one intern like suggested the idea and he wasn't on the next episode, and that was it. Like,
yeah,
because that was cool. It was nice, right? Like, it was a nice little like added flair to each of these characters that we don't see that often, right?
And I really feel like, at least with Comic Man and Shimage, that those would have been 2 people that could have had really cool like hero name drawings too, with the mushrooms or the comic book text and all that kind of stuff too. Yeah. So like, I feel like it almost fit with some of these characters more than the characters from the first episode. So that was something we talked about pre-show a little bit, and I just thought it was super odd for whatever reason that they chose to leave them out. And I hope they come back later on in the future. So now that we're at 1-on-1, do we think Class 1A or Class 1B is stronger? Do we think that the strategy of going from like kind of bad situation to bad situation is working better for Class 1A? Or if Class 1A would have got the same focus on actual hero studies that Class 1B did, they would have been stronger that way? Like, which one do you think is going to be better?
I think 1A just is stacked with some really, really strong students. But man, some of the worst of 1A are really bad as well. So I think 1B is like pretty solid across the board. But I think if you give them some experience, they stand a little bit higher, almost toe to toe. But I think when you have like Todoroki and like Deku and like Bakugo, it's really hard to like stand on par with the class when you have like three heroes that are probably like in top rankings by themselves. So
yeah, it's hard to do the comparison of like is experience versus like scholastics, kind of like, like which one's better, right? Because the quirks kind of like blow that argument out of the water. But I agree with what Dylan said, is like Class 1B across the board, like nobody seems that weak. Nobody seems like we don't have we don't have Hagakure's, we don't have Aoyamas, we don't have Minatas, like we don't have any like that. And like there's no, a big thing too is the personalities too. Like you don't have those like wimpy kind of characters in Class 1B. They're all fairly level-headed. Even guys who don't seem like their quirks are like that crazy, like they're all like super composed, right? They're like none of them freak out. I mean, Manga might be like one of our like weaker, like mannered kind of guys, because he's getting the shit kicked out of him by Hagakure and he's like kind of freaking out. But his quirk is insane. Yeah. Man made like 2 giant walls out of nowhere, right? So like, you still gotta get that bouncing act. So it's kind of a hard argument to have, right?
No, yeah, I agree. And I think either one it goes. And I think it also depends on the person too. I mean, I think that's why we see the top of the top. I mean, if Deku just had normal school training, obviously he's a main character, so he kind of falls outside of that, but he wouldn't have had the growth through that one. But I think someone like Aoyama, if he would have been in Class 1B, he'd be in a much stronger situation. But beyond that, round 1 or round 2, which was a better fight?
Ooh, I think I will say 2. I like round 2 so far because we got to see a showcase of really cool quirks.
Yeah, I want to go with the second one too, because like the first one's more of like the Shinzo show, and
Yep.
it wasn't like it wasn't really planned out or anything like that. Like it was like, I mean, what you kind of expect with like people like Denki and stuff like that on the team, him and like Kirishima, like they're very much just like go. It's nice to see some like planning and some like forethought or some foresight going, playing off the show, like the episode name. It made for like more of an entertaining fight, I think. Fights just like going out there and just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, I definitely felt like there was a lot more back and forth. I mean, both of it felt like you thought Class 1B was going to win the entire time, then Class 1A came back in the first one. Well, this one, it kind of kept bouncing back and forth, and I think the quirks were cooler in this round, too. So I have to agree with round 2 as well. But overall, I thought both fights have been great so far. I think they're only going to get better because we have some of our... I mean, these first 2 rounds haven't really had any of the characters we really want to see fight yet. We haven't seen Bakugo. We haven't seen Todoroki. We haven't seen Deku. We haven't seen some of our favorite people from Class 1A fight yet. So I'm assuming the fights are only going to get better from here. And the animation just seemed on par. We know we talked about CG a little bit last time. I didn't really notice anything here. I still thought all the fight scenes have been amazing. And I just hope it kind of keeps going on from there. But
yeah, we didn't have any just on that closing note. We didn't have any. I think this is the big difference between the first fight and the second fight. There's no like there wasn't a ton of like traditional fighting. There wasn't a lot of like stand and bang. You know what I mean? Like this was all very like quirk manipulation and stuff like that. I mean, we did have Kendo, but Kendo was really it, right?
Yeah.
It was otherwise it was quirks across the board.
Yeah, I completely agree. And speaking of quirks, let's kind of move into the first bigger topic. Dylan, break down the quirks and what we know about the new ones from Class 1B.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the name, hero name, and quirk of everyone, the 3 new ones at least. And I'm going to canonize what we're going to call each of these characters.
Oh boy.
No.
Especially since we have 2 Americans, one from the Midwest, one from the East Coast. We have a Canadian. Our accents are all over the place. And one thing that I had a lot of trouble with is, I don't know, I'm okay at figuring out the Japanese pronunciation of some of these, but for instance, Shimage, right? Her name is Shimage, like her hero name. But if you don't hear it read aloud, it's like, oh, is that a Japanese word? Because it's all one word. So it's like, is it Chimage? And then it's like, oh no, you hear it said in the show, and it's Shimeji. And it's like, but no, that's actually just the Japanese pronunciation of this English word, I guess. So it's a big mess, but I'm gonna go through all of them. So we got Itsuka Kendo. Hero name Battle Fist, quirk Big Fist. We're going to call her Kendo, of course. Kineko Komori. This is Shimage. This is Mushroom. Her quirk is Mushroom. It's the big mushroom girl. And then Manga Fukidashi. His hero name is Comic Man and quirk Comic. So Big Fist. Obviously, Kendo has the big fists, able to punch things. Shimage has Mushroom, which is essentially she emits spores is her actual quirk. It's an emitter quirk. She emits spores out and the mushrooms grow really, really fast. It's kind of all over the place. She doesn't have control of where they go necessarily.
Kind of seems to.
No, because she could actually suffocate herself if she doesn't prep for it. So she has to prep herself and prep her teammates as well, because she can't shoot them around someone.
But is she able to control what mushrooms though?
Yes. So she can control what mushrooms it looks like. But in terms of emitting it, it's just emitting it into an area.
Got it.
And then Manga, which his name is really funny because it's Manga, obviously it's Manga. And apparently Manga Fukudashi, it could be read as speech bubble. That name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it could be read that way, which I think is really funny. And then his thing is comic, which is onomatopoeia, which actually weirdly shows up as a power in a lot of other anime. It seems pretty unique, but it shows up all the time. I know JoJo's has an ability that is really similar. For anyone who watches JoJo's, it's very similar to Echo's, except there's slight variations of it. But I think this is really interesting because we see it in anime quite a bit, but we never see it in other places. This is never a super power in Western comics or anything like that. So I think this is really cool.
Yeah, I like you said, I think we talked about a little bit earlier on. I think all of the quirks in this one, we had Vanta Black too, so we can kind of include that in the conversation when talking about quirks. But I think seeing the unique ability of mushrooms, if you just hear her quirk is mushrooms, that's useless. But then kind of seeing how it can be it's a battlefield controlling technique pretty much, but it can also be used in a situation like Tokiyami to immobilize someone. So it can take out people that have stealth advantages, such as Invisible Girl, but it can also be used on the offensive. So I thought that was super cool. Comic Man, that he can even change things, not only make walls with some of the bigger words, but he can also have his words have effects as well, such as humidity. Like, I just think all of these are just such cool powers that we haven't, like, everything I feel like we've seen in Class 1A is pretty straightforward, but I really feel like Comic Man is the first time where there's like really depth to it, that it can create things, but it can also create effects. And I just thought all these quirks from this round were so much cooler than the first one. Everything in round one was very much more kind of commonplace, but all these were very cool quirks.
Yeah, a big thing I noticed with Class 1B is that like they're very much the quirks that like Class 1A has like your very like traditional kind of superpowers, and Class 1B is like, okay, let's kind of let's get creative, right? Let's have some fun with these, right? And I think that's really cool. Like, I mean, maybe they're not considered in the top runnings because of some of their quirks, because they're the more creative, like weirder ones, like mangas, right? But yeah, but like again, it's more creative. They're fun that way. Like, I like that, right? He's got some, like you said, he's got some depth to him, right? And the other thing is too is that like some of these are pretty deadly too. Like, I mean, we already saw it with Komori, like probably kill Tokiyami if she wanted to. I mean, Manga's capable of like massive amounts of destruction because of his like how big he can make stuff. Like, it's crazy. I really like this, and I mean, like Kendo's just best girl because it's Kendo. Like, it's just she just gets it right. Like,
So I want to know about Manga's abilities on how far it goes. Like, is there an onomatopoeia for like disease? Could he just
Mm,
like spread
yeah.
disease somewhere? Like,
Jesus.
obviously there's fire and there's like electricity he could probably do. He could probably create water. But like, what is the extent of an onomatopoeia, right? Like,
Yeah.
how far can you really go with that?
Yeah,
No,
I mean, yeah, that's kind of scary to think about actually, now that you say that. But all right, with these quirks, with the 4 Class 1B quirks, which one would you least want to go against, and which one would you most want to go against?
wait, we're just talking quirks, not characters, right?
Like,
Quirks.
if we're fighting it,
Yes, if you're fighting against these quirks, I guess fine. It makes it easier to associate with the characters. But like, out of the 4 in Class 1B, which do you most think you'd have a chance against? Which one do you think you'd have the least chance against?
Go ahead, Dylan. You can start this off.
least chance, Kendo. She would just punch me and I would die. Most chance, probably Komori. I think Mushroom, because in a one-on-one, it's probably the weakest. The only other thing I could think of is maybe Mangas, because in close combat you can just kind of punch them.
I mean, we
James?
saw that. The poor guy had his ass kicked, right?
Yeah.
I think I at least want to go against Kendo, just because, not only because of the ability, but like her prowess just across the board is pretty insane. You know what I mean? So I think she's at the bottom. I think I'd want to go against like Vanta Black, because you can kind of counter that with light. You know what I mean? Like, you can counter that fairly easy, right? So I feel like the other ones, there's just too much. There's too much bullshit to have to worry about. But if you just get Vanta Black like out of darkness, you're okay, right? So I feel like that's how I'd want to go about that.
I mean, obviously Kendall supremacy, so I would be fearful of
Yeah.
her. So I do not want to go against her. And I agree that actually with Vanta Black, that I feel like it would be the easiest to counter. I still think it'd be hard, but I think
Yeah.
if there was some preparation, I think that would be the easiest to counter. So I mean, I think all 4 of them, even in one-on-ones where they all seem to be weaker, which is why they all kind of fought from afar, except for Kendo. Um, but I still think all 4 of them were incredible quirks. But I guess next, the big thing that each one of us can talk about is going to be one favorite moment from each one of us throughout the episode. If we all have the same one, not a big deal. But James, one moment, your favorite moment from this episode, do you have an idea what it was?
Oh, that honestly, I think it's got to be like the raw power of like Komori, and like how like vast her quirk is. Seeing the showcase of her in both her and Manga, seeing the two of them, like these characters that are very like like, you know, they've had zero screen time up until now. You know what I mean? They've always been like in the background. We've talked about Manga multiple times, being like, oh, what does the speech bubble guy do? Like, what's his deal, right? Because like initially he was always been shown in the back, like making an expression or something like that. But that's really about it. But this episode showed like these characters are insane. They are nuts, right? Like so, and like I said before, they're deadly, right? So I think the back-to-back showcase of the two of them, I think it was probably my favorite part. Like we got enough of Vanta Black, so I was okay with Vanta not being around as much. And like I mean, I knew Kendo was gonna be a badass, so it wasn't really like surprising to me. She's had so much character growth that we've actually get to see on screen. But these two other characters that we don't really know that much about just turning out to be absolute monsters. That was sick. That was probably my favorite part.
Yeah. And Dan, I'll give you a second to think about it still. But for me, it's going to kind of be all of the moments of She Major, Mushroom, or whatever you want to call her, is that it starts off of her as just like, oh, she's skipping around, talking about all these mushrooms, super happy. And then as the episode kind of goes on, you realize she's super twisted. It's just kind of the play of events of like how her look and how she started the thing. It's like, oh, she's just like a super innocent girl and all that. That she pretty much like, oh, I can kill you if I wanted right now, Tokiyami. It's just kind of that turn there was such a fun moment that I forgot about that ability. And that's kind of how the fight really turned the tide. So I thought that was such a cool moment and such a fun twist.
So I actually looked up that mushroom that she put in his throat. It was like Schizophellum commune or commune, something like that. This is it actually wasn't like anything deadly. I don't know why she like called it out or anything.
It was
The
just
only
blocking
thing,
his windpipe.
yeah, it was just blocking. Like I assumed it was like a deadly poisonous like mushroom or something, but no, it was a normal one. It's actually the mushroom that's found across the world. It's literally everywhere except Antarctica. It's the mushroom that like basically breaks down wood whenever it's rotting. So it's just everywhere. So that's like the only thing kind of special about it, but it's not toxic or anything.
Yeah, I wonder why it was like that's the one she used
Because
for.
they grow on the side of trees and kind of go out. So I'd assume they could go
like
on
maybe
the
a-
rounded
yeah.
surface and kind of go through, blocking off the windpipe. It's kind of how I took it. Because right after they did it, they showed it like on a pole where they're sticking out. Kind of assume like, oh, it's just going straight through his kind of windpipe.
Yeah.
Makes sense,
And also
okay.
she's an absolute freak with mushrooms and has to like call them all out by their scientific name.
I know, yeah.
I agree. So then the last topic before we get into the plus.
Whoa,
Wait, was that not your favorite? Oh, well, go on.
No,
I
he's
was
just
giving context for
he's
you.
giving content. Come
My
on, man.
favorite is where they gave Kendo a gun. That was sick. No,
What?
I thought it was pretty cool. The cannon scene in the
Momo,
manga, it's like
You
a
mean
free...
Momo a gun?
Wait, what? Yeah, Momo. Sorry, I'm getting too excited. There's all this mushroom talk in Kendo. I'm getting too excited. When they gave Momo a gun, it was sick because it was like so she was like kind of huddled up or whatever, and then was like, oh yeah, here's this giant cannon. She could just kill Kendo. I think so the reason why I like this because they like weirdly kind of alluded at like these people could just like kill each other at any moment. But you have to like inherently kind of hold back. Like Komori could have just killed Tokuyami with the mushroom,
No.
right? Or like Kendo could have made like the cannon just shoot right at Momo could have made the cannon to shoot right at Kendo, right? Like I liked it because it was like a weird like kind of like side eye to like yeah no they're actually super deadly. They could just ruin everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's still not the best give a random high school student a gun moment in the series. That still belongs to Mustard.
Oh, Mustard, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do agree. It was a great give a gun to a high school student for no reason moment.
The
That
second
was
best
Kendo-
gun moment, my
That was
hero.
Kendo again, though. What is it with Kendo going against firearms? Like,
Yeah.
That is true. All right. So, James, there
Yeah.
is just one student in this fight that just did not belong. I think we all know at this point. Who is it?
yeah, like, and it wasn't Hagakure. That was the fucked up part. It wasn't her. Aoyama's, he's useless. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what, like, so he gets flown around by Tokuyami the entire time.
Yep.
Like, he's literally carried. And then it's the second he's on his own, he's done for. Vanta Black just yanks him up and he's gone. He doesn't know what to do. You get the iconic scream of Aoyama taking off into the distance, and it's the last you see of him because he doesn't know how to defend himself at all.
This is the second time he got yoinked too by him.
same play, same dude. Like, I mean, the messed up part is that most of the time in the series, when something happens a second time, most characters have like this moment of like, okay, I got to prepare for this thing that just happened to me because they're heroes, right? That's kind of what they're prepped to do. Not Aoyama though. Aoyama's a goddamn
And
idiot.
Aoyama's one that can counter Vanta Black too. Like, he should be able to stop this.
Yeah, like that's the messed up part. Like he could just shoot his laser, make it super like, and like, I mean, the worst that's happened is Vanta's just gonna drop him. Like he's just gonna let go of him because he needs to flip sides or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But no, he just gets Aoyama sucks, man. Aoyama sucks.
And I think it was a crime. Like, I know they drew lots and it was random, but like Hagakure and Aoyama on the same team. I mean, come on, that's stacking it against them.
It really is. And like the messed up part is too, and like I know the movies aren't canon. I know we don't like to use the movies like as reference, but we see a crazy good team up between Aoyama and Hagakure against, I believe it's against 9. You get some crazy like power combination between the two of them, or maybe it's just regardless. Like they like this whole like light supremacy thing. Like they're really good at it. These are two characters that are super good at this. Like, I mean, Vanta Black should not have been nearly as effective as he should have been. Plus, they got, and again, going back to the lots thing, they're paired with Tokoyami, who like needs darkness, right? Like, I mean, this whole team was a shit show from the get-go, man.
Yeah.
Like,
God, I know. I let you kick it off because you used to be an Aoyama stan for whatever reason.
Man. I liked Aoyama because he was always this character that was like trying, and like, you know, he was a major wimp, and like I felt really bad for him because of like the whole like, we talked about this, like some people's quirks just aren't super compatible with their body, right? And Aoyama's a victim of this, right? So I always felt like kind of like bad for Aoyama because like he's just kind of living with this quirk that he doesn't like initially really didn't want. Like, I mean, so it was like, you know, he had a soft spot, but like, I mean, he's not making it easy, man. Like he's not making it easy at all. Plus he's French, and I just love that they've just chucked this one French guy like into class 1A. Like, I don't know, but
he's also in 1A. Like he there's certain expectations that, you know, you just don't.
There's a bar.
Yeah. You gotta think about it. In every single situation where other people have grown in it, he's hidden alongside Mineta. Like I feel like those are the two people in Class 1A that don't get the advantage of going through the crisis training that they would have probably done better in Class 1B. I think both of them would be much stronger if they were in Class 1B.
You know, like normally I would add Hagakure into that mix, but we actually saw her be smart and take her gloves and boots off. Yeah. So she was totally invisible. This is the first time we saw it, right? Like this, I think like out of all the combat scenes, I guess with her fight with maybe 6, I think she had her gloves and boots off too. But most of the time she has them even in fight situations, which is like you're fucking useless if you do that, right? So yeah, I like again, those two are kind of victim to the anti-growth, I guess, which is weird.
All right. Well, with that, I think it is time to move into a Plus Ultra Award for this week's episode. Plus Ultra Award is a weekly award that each one of the hosts will give away to a character that went beyond, went Plus Ultra. And something I need to remind you three of before you make any choices. Last week, we made a very important decision. This is a Kendo Supremacy podcast. Account for that when making your Plus Ultras. Dylan, you lead.
You know what I'm going to choose. It's Komori. It's the mushroom girl. She was sick. Okay, so the whole battlefield control, right, was incredible use of her quirk, right? She literally had like mushrooms all over the place. Not only that, but the prep beforehand of like getting her teammates ready. Perfect there. Also, she just took out Tokoyami. Could have killed him. Yep. She is incredibly strong. She rules. I want more of the mushroom.
James?
It's Kendo. It's Kendo.
Really?
I got Kendo. I 100% got Kendo because she masterminded this. I don't know. Komori seems like a little bit of a loose cannon that I think she needed like some corralling, and I think that was 100% Kendo. Kendo used Vanta Black perfectly. She used Manga perfectly to isolate Momo away so Kendo could take her one-on-one. And not only does Kendo beat Momo, she also drags her back, being like steel cabled to her with a cannon attached. Like I knew Kendo was strong, but I didn't know she was that strong, that she just drags everything back and still captures Hagakure. Like you got to remember, like she had to be somewhat quiet on that approach to snag Hagakure, and she did it. in one grab. There was no fight. There was no nothing. She just yoinked her. So I got to give it to Kendo, and she got no appreciation at the end. None. The whole dialogue was about Momo and how great she could be. Kendo got no love. She gets
okay. Listen, Tetsu did give her a lot.
Okay.
Of love.
Oh, the hype.
Yeah. All right. No,
What a
the
hype
do
man.
that. Yeah, he is a great hype man. So but yeah, Kendo.
I was
for
just
sure.
messing with you guys. I'm giving it to Momo.
What?
James, you said how much of a shit show this team was not only 2 minutes ago, and she almost single-handedly turned the entire fight around while getting her ass beat. She created the biggest canon item to date so far, while also defending against Kendo, which is incredibly more powerful against her. Uses the cannon to accurately shoot items that were going to win the fight, that if only the mushroom didn't get in Tokiyami's mouth, then that's a win, because then it's 2-on-2. I guess fine, whatever. It still goes the other way. Momo, while getting her ass beat, almost turned the fight around. That's plus ultra. She went
Almost,
beyond.
Like, do you get?
Doesn't matter about almost. Doesn't matter about almost.
You lose, like.
She went beyond.
All right, Andrew. Sorry, we have to take away your Kendo fan club card. Don't show up to the next meeting.
Oh no, I'm cutting it to shreds. You can return your jacket.
Oh, whatever. It was a good episode for everyone. Kendo was a good one too. Mushroom would have been my third vote. But I think that's all we're going to have for this week's episode of Class of Night Podcast. We will be back here next Saturday to dive into everything that happened on episode 7 of season 5 and so much more. I think it teased a little bit. I think we have the Ida fight coming up next week and all that group. So I think next fight is going to be just as exciting. So we'll see you all back here next Saturday. And thank you so much for listening and watching.